Hey, this is Chris. Hope you're doing well, and welcome to Popcorn Finance, where we discuss finance and about the time it takes to make a bag of popcorn. I'm happy you came back to join us for another episode, and today I'm joined by Bobbi Rebell. How are you doing today?
Hey, Chris. So great to be here.
I'm really happy to have you here. You know, it's always great to have a guest on and kind of just jump into a great conversation. So, thanks for spending a little bit of your time here with me.
This is the best. And by the way, can I just say, Chris,
go for it.
I am a fan of the Popcorn Finance podcast because I am a big fan of the short podcast because I think people are busy. And I think if you have something important to say, you should say it in about the time that it takes to eat a bag of popcorn.
Thank you. I'm
just saying.
I'm honored. I'm going to save this clip right here and just keep listening to it. Thank you. Well, for those of you who aren't familiar with Bobbi, she is an author, a certified financial planner. You host the Financial Grown-Up podcast, which I'm also a fan of.
Oh, thank you.
And I think we've talked before in the past, and leading up to this, you mentioned that you've been doing a lot of this work, not necessarily the podcast, but a lot of the other things you've done, because you've also been award-winning TV anchor, you've been a columnist with Reuters, you've been with PBS, so you've had a lot going on, but a lot of things have been like a side hustle for you almost. You've been doing it in addition to your main responsibility, your main moneymaker.
Right. So Financial Grown-Up started as a concept for a personal finance brand, and it was a side hustle while I worked at Reuters for about 3 years. And so phase one was the book, How to Be a Financial Grown-Up, which featured inspiring stories from famous people, some of which, like Kevin O'Leary, have already been on the podcast as well. And I appreciate the fact before we started officially taping, you complimented the production value. And that also goes to my background in television, where I'm used to producing, not only coming up through the ranks, but even when I was an on-camera anchor, other people would produce for me. But in addition, I also was a producer, and I'm bringing those skills to the podcast, where I make promotional videos that are really fun. People can see them on my social media. I make custom images for each social channel, and I really enjoy it. And I think that the best way to do these side hustles and to grow a business, that this was a side business, now it's my main business, is to think about what are your skills that you enjoy doing. So I'm doing journalism on my own terms is what's happening now, instead of having to conform. And for example, talking about the Fed every day for a decade, even though they did nothing, Chris, they literally did nothing. And I really think I did a story on the Fed for a decade, easily. And they didn't actually move till like 2 years ago.
Well, I think one of the things that stood out in the short time that we've been talking is I think you emphasize the hustle in the side hustle. And I think sometimes, because it's now very easy to start, various types of side hustles. And, I didn't mention earlier, but this month, these past several weeks, it's been all about the side hustle. And so when I hear you talk about this, it reminds me of the fact that, some things are really easy to get into, things like, Uber, Postmates, these on-demand app delivery services, rideshare services, they make it very easy to take up a side hustle. But in those instances,
it's so great,
right? And it's great because I've tried them as well, and it allows you to kind of hop in, make a little money on the side, and, still keep a day job or do other things you have to take care of. But when there's maybe other ideas you have, other passions that you like to turn into a side hustle, I think sometimes we forget, because these apps provide a structure for us, how much work actually goes into it and how much hustle actually has to be a part of being successful at whatever it is you take on. And so, for you, all things you've done, would you mind talking a little bit about the hustle for you and kind of that work that goes into doing all this?
Yeah, I think that you have to think about your goal. If your goal is to have a side hustle that's a hobby and you don't care if it makes money, then you should work the appropriate amount to achieve that goal. For me, I kind of woke up, I had a 6-7-year-old son and older stepkids that we also were raising. And I was making an okay salary, but because of New York City and childcare and all that, I wasn't really taking home that much money. And I thought about the fact that I wasn't seeing my family. And I was like, is this really worth it if I'm not seeing them? What can I do? So I started the side hustle of the Financial Grown-Up brand with a deliberate goal to peel off from a corporate job and create an entrepreneurial venture that would net me more money. Now, just to net more money when you're self-employed, you could make the same money, but I'm not paying for example, childcare anymore, right? So that was my goal. I'm very happy that in year sort of 1.5, because it's been a year and 2 months since I left, I will surpass those original goals and I will make more than I did in my corporate job. But I think it's important to think about, what is your goal? My goal was definitely quality of life first, that I wanted to be able to see my child. But to do that, Chris, as you mentioned, I work so hard. So even now, I peeled off from Reuters. I left Reuters, where my side hustle was the Financial Grown-Up business. And within Reuters, by the way, I had multiple side hustles to give me more skills. So my job that I was hired for was to be the TV anchor and to run the business news unit. But within Reuters, I was writing the column and I was hosting social media chats. So those were side hustles within to give myself more experience and more skills for when I left. So that was always the plan. And more exposure. By writing the column, I became more well-known, and that becomes a currency when you're independent. So now I have the podcast. That's a main business. And I also work with clients as a brand partner. So I have a few wonderful clients that I just love working with. And you're starting to see some of that airing on CNBC. And you'll see more of that on the web in terms of the other client that I filmed today. And then I still do as a side hustle. I mentioned to you, I wanted to tape tonight because next week I'll be filling it at the NASDAQ Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I was there this Monday as well. I go in at 3 a.m. and you make your way through the country. So you start doing some pre-tapes early, and then by 5 a.m. you're on live in East Coast cities, and then you wind your way through. By the time I leave at 11, I'm on in San Diego, Vegas, great stations, Seattle, Sacramento. It's just so much fun. Amazing working with the local news anchors there, but they toss to me and I give them the business headlines for the day. So I love doing it, but honestly, it is also income. It's a side hustle to my main business. And so that is a side hustle as well. And I also still do ghostwriting for some companies. So I'm always working, Chris. I'm always working.
It really sounds like you are. Bobbi, I want to ask you this one final question before we wrap up. So you being someone who's gone from having, a traditional 9-to-5 job, and then you've worked your side hustle on the side to a point where you could eventually transition and this be your full thing that you do. Do you have any final tips for people they're like, okay, I understand the hustle. I understand it's going to be work, but I'm really interested in making this change and making this leap towards my goal. What would you say is like a tip for them while they're working their 9-to-5 to help them transition into their side hustle and making that something that they can do full time, or maybe just some things they should look out for if they're planning on doing something like this?
So first of all, I never worked 9 to 5 because I worked in media. I just worked 5 to 9. Just pretend like one place at CNN, I was like, just roll out the car. I'll sleep here. But anyway, so don't work in media. First of all, just get out. Any young people that are thinking about it, just go out that exit door right now. All right. Okay. But for normal people, I just think that you should be realistic. I mean, not everyone is cut out for the entrepreneur life, and we'll see where I am in a few years. I just don't know. You will not. I mean, it's important, number one, to have a big financial cushion. I not only had that, but I also have a husband that has a job, and that's reality. Yeah. Okay. So I didn't just quit my job and say, let's see how it goes. I have a husband with income, and that is really important. So you have to think about, do you have enough money in the bank or another earner in the family with a pretty reliable job? Because that first year or two, you don't know. Anything could happen. You really don't know. And I think it's important to be realistic. So really stay in your 9-to-5 as long as you need. It's not so easy. And a lot of the income that I have was not from the path that I thought it would be. So I've been very nimble, if that makes sense. I thought I would do a lot of speaking about personal finance as keynotes, but in fact, what I ended up enjoying the most, besides the podcast, is working with brands and emceeing conferences, which I love. And I actually just fell into that. And so I ended up pursuing that, which is different. So you may have an idea. You shouldn't have preconceived notions, and you shouldn't be too hard on yourself. Take your time, stay in the job so you have a good idea. Make sure you have that safety net and be ready to pivot, because I pivoted. I also, as I told you, I don't know if we were recording it or not. I told Joe Saul-Sehy I was never doing a podcast ever a year ago, almost a year ago today, like literally. And here I am. So I learned my lesson. Don't say never. Listen to Joe's advice. Whatever you do, and be ready to pivot, because what you think is not for you may be the best thing. And I think doing my podcast I don't think I've ever been so excited about any kind of journalism. And it is a journalism podcast, as you've basically noted. And I'm getting to do journalism on my terms in a way that I never thought possible. And like I said, the response has been amazing. My traffic is up 5 times February to March. So thank you to everyone. And thank you to you, Chris.
No, congratulations. I'm really happy to hear that. And I hope that people will take the words you said and, they'll have some caution and really think through whatever their plans are, if they're planning on making some type of transition. But then also, I hope they can hear the passion in your voice and hear that, even though it's going to be a lot of work and you do have to be cautious and really plan it out, it definitely sounds like it is worth it because of the joy and actual sense of accomplishment and pride you get from actually creating something on your own.
Yeah, I hope I didn't sound too discouraging. But also focus on your goals. My number one goal was to at least maintain my income and be present with my family. That was my goal. And that's really important because in the corporate job, I was there all the time. 9 to 5 is so funny when you say that. I don't really know how to even process that. But no, I mean, I wanted more than just seeing my son 5 minutes before he wanted to go to bed. And so I'm accomplishing that. And that's awesome.
Oh, yeah.
And the fact that I'm, doing well financially in terms of income is a bonus and needed. I'm in New York City.
Yeah.
You got to earn some money. But really, that was my goal, is to just not be going to work and missing my family life.
Oh, no, that's great. I don't think you're being discouraging at all. I think a word of caution is always good. I think you should always just really think through anything before you take the leap. But I think what you just expressed there is what a lot of people would like. We spend so much time in the office or away from the home, having the option to, see your family more often by creating a different source of income for yourself is I think, a great thing. So I appreciate you sharing that.
Thank you.
And so, Bobbi, as we're wrapping up here, is there anything, special going on? Because I know I'd love for everyone to be able to connect with you and, keep up with what's going on with you and the podcast or any other thing you'd like to share with us before we go.
I have amazing guests coming up, including you, by the way. I've convinced you to come on. So I just hope that people will tune into the podcast. It's Financial Grown Up with Bobbi Rebell. It's in all the usual places. If you like it, please leave a review. Apparently, that's something that helps you get noticed. I don't even, Chris, I'm so new to this. I don't even know how these things work, but I've heard that's a big thing. So please do that and write to me. Tell me what you want to hear on the show. Tell me if you have a guest request or idea. I just want to hear from people. I'm on all the social channels, Twitter at Bobbi Rebell, Instagram, it's at Bobbi Rebell 1. And I have a Facebook page, Bobbi Rebell, but also, sign up for my newsletter. I'm going to get better at doing my newsletter. In fact, I'm going to do one tomorrow. I'm really delinquent in it, but I'm going to be doing the newsletter more often, and I'm going to put sneak peeks to episodes and extra content in the newsletter, and maybe I'll do sneak peeks to the videos in the newsletter. So if you go to BobbiRebell.com, please sign up for my newsletter.
Oh, nice. We'll do. I'll make sure. If I'm not, I'll make sure that I am, so I can stay up on what's going on.
Thank you.
Well, Bobbi, thank you so much. I appreciate you spending some time with me here, and yeah, definitely look forward to spending some time on your podcast.
Chris, you are wonderful. I can't wait.
Thanks again to Bobbi for stopping by and joining me here on the podcast for a few minutes. It was a lot of fun talking with her. And if you haven't already checked out her podcast, Financial Grown Up, definitely recommend you do, because not only is it a really fun and well-produced show, I'm going to be a guest on her podcast this upcoming Friday, May 4th. And I'm actually going to be sharing a story that I haven't even shared here on the podcast. So make sure you're subscribed. And, as always, I'll have links to how to get in contact with Bobbi and subscribe to the podcast in the show notes, or you can visit popcornfinance.com/side hustle. And now it's time to give my weekly side hustle update, because for those of you who don't know, during this side hustle series, I started a new side hustle of my own, and that is selling t-shirts through the Amazon merch program, something that I signed up for a long time ago and just kind of never did anything with. So I figured this would be a perfect time to give it a try. So happy to announce I got my very first sale. It was actually really exciting. I logged onto the website. I saw it there. I saw the big $6, and I was like, oh man, I'm motivated. I need to work a little bit harder at this. And it's not a ton of money, but considering the fact that I didn't have to put any money into it, all I had to do was create some designs myself and upload them. It's actually not bad. So I have 2 designs up on the site right now, and I submitted a third one, which is pending right now. And a shout out to my brother. It's actually just his birthday today. If you listen to this when it actually came out, he reviewed my most recent design, and I got his seal of approval. So I'm hoping that it's going to be a pretty good one. Maybe get a little traction on that. And also, happy early birthday to my wife. She's probably not listening to this, but I'm gonna say it anyways. So yeah, if you go to popcornfinance.com/side hustle, along with all the guests that I've had on during this series, you also see a link to where you can check out some of the designs that I've uploaded so far. And also I have links to some of the other side hustles that I've personally tried. Maybe give you a little inspiration or direction to help you start a side hustle of your own. And if you're not already following me on Instagram, now's a good time to do so, because there'll be a special giveaway that I'm going to start up this week, and I'll be running it through the Instagram account itself. So yeah, just follow me at Popcorn Finance Podcast on Instagram to get the details. And of course, you can always follow me on Twitter and Facebook if those are your preferred places to do your your social media stuff. And also make sure you're subscribed and that you come back next week, because I'll be joined by Jason from thewealthhound.com, and he's going to discuss his very interesting side hustle involving dead fish. So I think you're going to want to hear that, because it's a really good story. I had a lot of fun talking with him about that. So as always, I want to thank you for joining me here for another bag of popcorn. I hope you have an amazing rest of your day, and I'll talk to you soon.